Hello, Barondipitus here with another video for the Board Game Shelf, this time showing off the classic Love Letter. There are many versions of Love Letter out there. I know there's like even a Marvel Love Letter, Cthulhu Love Letter, and things like that. And I think there's also versions of Love Letter that have more like updated art. Um, because I'll admit some of the dresses and like outfits in this are I don't know how to I don't know how I feel about it. But one thing I do, so a couple things I love about this game. First of all, it's another game that's very simple and easy to learn. Also, the people who made Love Letter also made a series of other games that are actually connected. They're all in like one like world essentially. This says Court the Royal Princess of Tempest, and Tempest is another board game, like a larger board game, and they all take place in the same place. And so actually along this box you can see seize the city-state in Dominaire, control the markets in Mercante, sway the royal court in Courtier, and build new districts in Canals, and then there's Tempest. Now I've been tempted to get these other games because if you know me at all, I'm a bit of a sucker for like lore and like continuity and things like that. But I also wasn't sure if I would play those games as much. Anyway, this box is honestly kind of big for what's in Love Letter. Like, sure, we have this instruction booklet, but this is literally it. Like, it's just these cards. Very like you could carry this game in your pocket, really. Essentially, the idea is so you have all these different cards, and these are so the story behind Love Letter is that when you play this game, you are taking on the role of suitors who are um, you know trying to court the lovely princess of I guess the city of Tempest. And each of these people are different members of the royal court. There are so actually here we have five guards, two priests, two barons, two handmaids, two princes, one king, one countess, and one princess. And this game is small and simple enough that I'm happy to actually explain what all these cards do because it's really cool. Well, actually, first I'll mention that everyone has like let's see, it's been a while. So basically, everyone just draws one card essentially. And on your turn, you draw a card and then you play a card. When you play a card, you just kind of put it face up in front of you, and that card takes effect. And you kind of keep playing like this: draw a card, play a card. The round ends if the deck is empty at the end of a turn, or when one player remains in the game. All players still in the round reveal their hands. The player with the highest ranked person wins the round and receives a token of affection, which is what these are. Shuffle all 16 cards together and play a new round. The winner of the previous round goes first. And essentially, you just kind of choose, like, the first person to get 3 or 5 tokens of affections wins the whole game. You just keep playing until that happens. So, yeah, very, very simple and straightforward, right? But what's really cool is how these cards play against each other. So we'll start at the bottom here. With the guard. There's 5 guards here. So if you play this card, you can name a non-guard card and choose another player. If that player has that card, they're out of the round. So let's say that you suspect that somebody else has a priest in their hand. You can play this card, point to that person and say, "I think you have a priest." And if they have one, then they will reveal it and say, "Okay, well I'm out of the round." And if they don't have it, then nothing happens. But yeah, and essentially, the higher the number, the better, right? With 8 being the princess herself, and essentially these numbers represent how close they are to the princess, right? So that's the guard. Number 2 is the priest. You can look when you play the priest, you can look at somebody else's hand. Pretty simple and straightforward. Let's see. Number 3 is the baron. So when you play the Baron, you and another player secretly compare hands. The person with the lower value is out of the round. All right. Number 4 is one of the princess's handmaids. So when you play the handmaid, until your next turn, ignore all effects from other players' cards. So when you play the handmaid, you're basically protected for until your next turn. Number 5 is the prince. Choose any player, including yourself, to discard his or her hand and draw a new card. So this card can allow you or somebody else to basically refresh their hand. Moving up to number 6, we have the king. Trade hands with another player of your choice. So if you think somebody else has a better hand, you can play the king and swap your hands, essentially swap cards. Obviously, that would reveal to you and to your opponent and to that other person what cards you have. Number 7 is the countess, the princess's best friend. If you have this card and the king or prince in your hand, you must discard this card. So basically, obviously the countess is a very powerful, is a very powerful card. But the downside is if this happens, then you have to get rid of her. And that kind of shows everybody else, oh, well, that means you have a king or a prince in your hand, right? So there's that. And then finally, the princess. So, if you discard this card, you are out of the round. So, which may not sound like much, but if you have, say, let's see, someone makes you discard. Yeah. So if someone plays the prince on you and you have the princess and you have to discard, well, then you're out entirely, right? So yeah, it's very, very interesting things, especially when you get up to these cards, because these cards play off each other a lot. Because the countess sort of tries to avoid the king and the prince. And that tells you that you have basically throughout the whole game, you're sort of trying to keep track of who might have who, and there's there's 5 guards, so there's a lot of those. But if you have the prince, then that means someone else might have the prince as well, and so on and so forth, right? Another thing I like too is that there is a little bit of lore to this. If you look in the instruction booklet, they actually give a little bit of a brief bio for each character, and also kind of an explanation of their card's effect and some strategy and so forth. As an example, let's do Baron Talus. The scion of an esteemed house that has long been a close ally of the royal family, Baron Talus has a quiet and gentle demeanor that conceals a man used to being obeyed. His suggestions are treated as if they came from the king himself. So, when discarded, choose one other player still in the round. You and that player secretly compare your hands. The player with the lower rank is knocked out of the round. In case of a tie, nothing happens. If all the players still in the round are protected by the handmaid, this card does nothing. So essentially there's this kind of, so in terms of the character himself, there's this kind of sense of he's quiet and he's gentle, and he has a gentle demeanor, but he's used to being obeyed. There's kind of there's a secret power to him and stuff. And so that's kind of the justification for why the Baron Talus's card is secretly comparing hands, and whoever has the lowest card is out. Kind of it's like he's taking someone aside in secret and sort of coercing them to reveal their secrets, kind of a thing. And you see that kind of thing with all of these characters, and I think that is really cool. I'm a big fan of that. So yeah, Love Letter is great. I've played it a lot. It definitely works with my parents' requirement of 20 minutes or less, or 30 minutes or less, whichever one, I can't remember. But yeah, Love Letter is great, and I've considered getting maybe at least one other version of Love Letter, maybe the Cthulhu or Marvel Love Letter, because I think it's awesome. This box is a little bit big for the game. You really this is kind of a slightly older version of the game. How old was the copyright of it? When was this version published, actually? I'm pretty sure the rules have not really changed. Oh yeah, there's also some story as well, stuff. I'm pretty sure the rules haven't really changed, but the packaging has gotten better. The Love Letter, more recent editions of Love Letter are like a small velvet bag, essentially, that fits everything. 2014. Okay, so but anyway, there you go. That's Love Letter. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, all the best.